There are opportunities to transform the world. Now are you deciding strongly who should we appear? It is not important to you who is passing this message on to you, consider the mediator unknown. However, it matters a lot what you are testing with this message and what a firm and clear intention it awakens in you. Each of you has the right to make good use of your free will and discover happiness. These are beneficial features that have been introduced to you and that you can all access from now on. Your free will depends to some extent on the knowledge of your own abilities. The happiness you can experience depends heavily on the love you give or receive as a gift. Along with all the self-conscious races that live on this planet, at the stage of development you are in, you can feel isolated on your planet. This impression will make you confident in your destiny. Nevertheless, you are facing great trials that only a minority knows about. For the time being, we have no right to help you transform your future without you choosing it yourself in the knowledge of the facts. Take this important message for all of you like a worldwide referendum. Be aware that your definite and categorical response, expressed telepathically, is actually like a kind of ballot paper. Who are we? At present, neither your scientists nor your religious leaders have a unified opinion on all the inexplicable, mysterious observations that humanity has made for thousands of years in different parts of your planet. In order to know the truth correctly, you must face the facts without being falsified by your seemingly venerable belief systems. More and more of your anonymous researchers are already exploring new ways of getting to know reality. Your civilization in this age is partly bathed in an ocean of chaotic information, of which only a negligible, least disturbing part is prevalent in general. If you look carefully at your past histories, what seemed ridiculous or impossible to you is now available, and especially has been realized in the last half-century. Many of you are already saying that the future will be even more surprising. You will soon discover both what is worse and what is better. Like the many hundreds of billions of creatures that live in this galaxy, we are self-conscious creatures that some call extraterrestrials, even if our reality is much more sophisticated. You need to be absolutely sure that in reality there is no fundamental difference between you and us that distinguishes us from each other, the tremendous experience we have already gained at a higher stage of development. Like any harmoniously organized structure, there is a hierarchical set of values. In our internal relationships, our hierarchy is based solely on the wisdom of several species. With our approval of our hierarchy, we are addressing you now. Like most of you, we ourselves seek the essential experience of the Supreme Being, God. You could be sure that we are not really gods or demigods, but we are equal to you within the cosmic brotherhood. Physically, many of us are different from you, but we mostly have a humanoid form. Our existence is a living reality, even if most of you don't yet realize it. You can be absolutely sure that we are not just simple light phenomena, but we have consciousness, just as you have consciousness. We are beyond your comprehension because we remain almost incessantly invisible, both to your ordinary senses and to your traditional measuring instruments. Right now, we want to fill the gap that has emerged in this era of history. You need to know that we have already made this collective decision, but it is not enough. We now need you to contribute to this with a firm determination and a majority. Through this message, you will be the ones, each of you individually, who will decide firmly and clearly what will happen next. If you study this message very carefully, you may become aware of the fact that you are yourself and will always remain the ones you choose in each case. We have no human representative on planet Earth to guide your decisions. Certain communities may ask why we are not visible. At certain stages of development, the humanities that exist in the cosmos are discovering new forms of science that are proving superior to apparent domination over matter. Dematerialization and structured materialization are part of this knowledge. Your humanity has already reached this knowledge in certain secret laboratories, where these phenomena are being researched together with other extraterrestrial creatures at the cost of irresponsible compromises that some of your representatives are deliberately hiding from you. In addition to phenomena or objects well known to scientific circles, observable in the air or in space, all that you have called UFOs are actually handmade multifunctional vessels that have these characteristics. Currently, a great many people have entered into auditory, tactile, or psychic, telepathic, connections with such devices, some of which are already in the hands of the secret power that governs you. Your clear observations of the reality of such machines are due to a number of significant benefits associated with the dematerialized state of these spacecraft. Since you have not yet seen these, you cannot believe them. We easily understand this fact. We allow most of the observations about us individually to affect and impress your souls, not to modify your organizational systems. The species around you in the cosmos are completely voluntary to make these contacts, but you should be aware that the meaning and purpose of each relationship can be very different. Malicious, satanic, multidimensional creatures who, in the shadow of the oligarchs who reign on your planet, participate in dominion over your world by declaring their own evil power, have good reason to hide. Since humans are unaware of their existence, they can easily hide their activities from them. For our part, the reason for our tact is to unreservedly respect the free will of the people, which they can and must always use to conduct their own affairs, so that they themselves can reach the technical and spiritual maturity they need. We look forward to your humanity entering the family of galactic civilizations. You need to know that we are able to appear in the world and we are ready to allow you this unification. So far, we have not taken this step because too few of you sincerely wanted it, either out of ignorance or indifference or out of fear, and mainly because there was no critical situation or emergency. Many of the people who study our appearances count night lights without thereby shedding light on this phenomenon in any way. They often view the mysterious reality they observe as something, without even realizing that it is actually about consciousness. Who are you? Even if you don't know, you are descendants of many traditions that have gradually mutually enriched each other over time. Species that once lived on Earth have also been involved in this process. One of your goals is to unite with respect for these roots in order to implement a common plan together. The outward appearance of your cultures seems to separate you, as you are replacing your deep, real beings with these outward signs. Your external form affects your more sophisticated inner nature. This dominant nature of form serves as a bulwark for the evil-minded secret forces that rule you, and so they themselves are never the subject of debate. You need to know that you are destined to transcend form, while respecting its mysterious necessity, richness, and beauty. Awareness of the mysterious necessity of the forms thus understood has led and continues to make us love people in their diversity. Peace consists not only of not breaking out new wars, but also of becoming who you really are, one and the same brotherhood. There are few solutions available to you to better understand this fact. One such option is to have a harmonious and beneficial relationship with another species that can thus convey to you a clear picture of who you are in reality. Currently, what are you in? In all our appearances so far, we have had a very weak influence on your collective and individual decisions about the future. This is because we are very familiar with deep psychological mechanisms. We have come to the conclusion that the construction of inner freedom takes place almost daily, to the extent that a person awakens and perceives his outer environment, his human community, and to the extent that he perfects, gradually getting rid of all kinds of bad habits, limitations, and helplessness. Despite the enormous beneficial effects exerted by many voluntary, brave human consciousness, this chaining inertia is unnaturally perpetuated, and benefits from the ever-increasing and growing central power at the service of evil. Until recently, the human race had good control over its own important decisions. At present, humanity is increasingly losing control of its own destiny, the so-called due to the widespread use of advanced technology, the harmful effects of which on the planet's ecosystem and human habitat are beginning to become irreversible. It can be said that you are slowly but surely losing your extraordinary abilities to make your life pleasant, beautiful, and deeply fulfilled. Your resilience, regardless of your free will decrease mainly as a result of the artificial conditions that arise. Such evil technology has a detrimental effect on both your body and your psychics. Many such ill-intentioned, large-scale plans are already underway on your planet. Due to your ignorance, most of you don't even suspect the evil that is coming. You urgently need to realize that this situation can turn out as long as you all have the colossal creative power to resist the dark plans of your leaders in the shadows. That is why we remain invisible for the time being. You should know that this tremendous individual creative power may disappear in the near future unless you test as soon as possible for an extra effort followed by a significant collective level of consciousness jump. If this great shift in community consciousness does not take place, then the next period will be an era of rupture for you. You need to realize as soon as possible that it is not necessary to wait for the final moment to find a solution to this situation. Don't you think the time has come to prevent or even recover from suffering? The path of your history has always been marked by the encounter of different peoples, who often had to discover each other in conflict situations. Subsequent conquests were almost always carried out to the detriment of one of the parties. Lately, the earth has become almost like a village to you, where everyone knows everyone, yet conflicts persist, and all sorts of threats are getting more serious, longer and more powerful day by day. Man, as an individual, though endowed with a number of profoundly beneficial and astonishing potential qualities, does not even suspect that he possesses such extraordinary powers. Because he receives no guidance from anyone to awaken these dormant forces within him, he is not even able to use them as he should. Unfortunately, this is the case for most of you, and mainly for geopolitical reasons. You are intentionally being held in this ignorant state. You know that there are currently a few billion people living on this planet. Now the upbringing of your children, your living conditions, and the existence of countless animals and plants are under the control and convenience of a narrow group of your political, financial, military, and religious representatives. The vast majority of your thoughts and beliefs are formed for you in the interests of a certain narrow group in order to oppress you and push you into a line of slavery while giving you the illusion that you are masters of your own destiny, but that is essentially not true at all. Don't lose sight of all of this, as there is a big difference between your desires and their actual realization, especially when, because of your ignorance in which you like it, you don't even guess the real rules of the game. When you reach full knowledge of reality, you will realize that you are not really the conquerors. Directing information in a certain direction is a millennial strategy that is still applied to humanity today. With the help of certain appropriate technology, it is possible to introduce thoughts, feelings, or even organisms into your internal structures that are not useful or beneficial to you. This is another, even older strategy that is being put into full force today. Currently, technologies that offer extraordinary development opportunities threaten only to subjugate and destroy people. All of this, and the opportunities and threats that will emerge in the future, are and will unfortunately be the raw reality. Under the influence of your ignorance and helplessness in which you please, most of the time you see only an insignificant part of reality, the only one that those who usurp power have chosen to show you. The depletion of energy resources is planned in the same way that no long-term project, which will be of great benefit to humanity, will be launched and implemented. Few know that the mechanism of depletion of your planet's ecosystem has already reached irreversible limits. The scarcity of certain raw materials, as well as their chaotic, unfair distribution, will cause consumer prices to rise, and this will trigger fratricidal clashes in the near future that will affect huge crowds, both in the hearts of cities and villages. In the near future, hatred will increase, but at the same time, love will grow. Through love, you will be able to keep the hope that you will find effective and wise solutions. But you should know that the critical mass is not large enough, while a power that is concealed in an intelligent and evil way is already operating on your planet, which is widely undermining the effective use of your free will. The current very high state of inertia is created by much of the human behavior that has been almost completely petrified by harmful habits and misconceptions of the past, and this prospect can easily get you in trouble. Those of you who have already grasped these facts attribute these difficulties to those representatives in whom the consciousness of good deeds for the benefit of all mankind is gradually fading because of the sinful interests of mammoth companies. Although these problems are often superficially examined, in reality an in-depth analysis of them is rare. In many cases, at the moment of action, one delay follows another, until in the end your actions are realized much more as a result of a coercion than as a result of your own choices. This is why, more than ever before in your history, the decisions you make today will have a directly proportional and significant impact on your future survival tomorrow. I wonder what event could radically change this state of inertia that is characteristic of your civilizations? It is worth asking yourself the question, what can be born of a deeply unifying collective consciousness that will be able to curb this ever-accelerating proliferation and power of evil? From ancient times throughout history, human tribes, peoples, and nations have discovered each other, met, and established constructive relationships with one another. In the face of the increasingly serious threats to the great family of mankind, more than ever, the time has come for a widespread, more wise cooperation than ever before. You have to realize that a powerful wave is about to pop up. This huge wave, mixed indiscriminately, contains all sorts of very positive, beneficial, and very bad, even deterrently evil elements. Who is third party? There are two main ways to connect with the cosmic one with civilization. A. Through the ruling representatives of that civilization, or B. Directly, through non-significant individuals. The first method triggers certain power struggles, the second results in a higher level of consciousness. The first path has already been chosen by a group of certain extraterrestrial species whose interest is to keep the human race in a subordinate position. This group is preparing to bring under its own control both the raw material reserves of the planet and the genetic heritage of the human race, and even the emotional energy that manifests itself at the level of the planet. The second path was chosen by a group of extraterrestrial races that serve the divine purpose of the spirit. As far as we are concerned, we have sided with this ideal of selfless interests. A few years ago, we introduced ourselves to some representatives of human power who rejected our outstretched hand to them, on the grounds that our participation was incompatible with their interests and strategic approach. That is why we have decided that the call should now be made to almost all people to make an informed choice, without any intervention by the authorities. Everything we have previously recommended for those whom we thought we were able to make a significant contribution to your happiness, we now offer it directly to you, for your future. Unfortunately, you do not know that certain non-human beings have been and continue to be heavily involved in the use of these centralizing and monopolizing means of power without these disturbing facts being confusing or accessible to your senses. Even if you can't believe this, you need to know that it's perfectly true that these non-human beings have taken control almost completely in a very occult and subtle way. You should also know that these non-human beings do not necessarily exist in your material world, and that is precisely why they are terribly effective and evil and will be frightening in the near future. Since these are circumstances that are not even conceived by you, we may ask, how can you use your free will in a creative and beneficial way if it is manipulated? Why are you all really free? Reconciling and reuniting your peoples could be the first step you need to take in order to be in harmony with the advanced civilizations that exist in the cosmos other than your own. Your evil manipulators in the shadows want to avoid this opportunity at all costs because they know that, shared and intimidating you, they can rule over you very easily. It is well known that your governments are now also determined to follow the plan to divide and subjugate the peoples. Their harmful power is manifested through their deception and their ability to instill fear, doubt, insecurity, and disbelief in you. All of these faults that have awakened and intensified within you do significant damage to your cosmic nature and slow down the awakening of the extraordinary and beneficial forces that exist in all of you in a latent state. This message that we are addressing to all of you would make no sense if we did not want you to wake up from the dream you lived in so that the rule of these manipulators did not reach its climax and their vile, deceitful, and sinful plans did not reach their completion in a few years within, the consequences of which would be highly fatal to all mankind. You need to know that the deadlines for these plans are very close, and that is why humanity will be going through dramatic changes that have not been possible in the last 10 cycles. To be able to defend yourself against these invisible attacks, you must awaken and begin to use, more than ever, the extraordinary spiritual qualities that will show you the inspirations to solve the serious problems before you. You need to know that there is resistance within these oppressive masses, just as there is resistance in the masses of people. However, you must take into account the fact that the external form will not be enough to distinguish the oppressor from the ally. In your present situations, in which the vast majority of people have psychics, it will be extremely difficult for you to perform many useful and beneficial actions. To succeed in what you have been called upon from the beginning, in addition to intuition, you need special training, learning time, that will allow you to go beyond the limits placed on you and awaken the extraordinary potential abilities available to you. Knowing the invaluable value and tremendous power of each person's free will, we now invite you to participate in an alternative you need as soon as possible. What will we give to you? As you will be able to see for yourself in the right moment, we can give you a much broader, deeper, and more comprehensive view of the universe in which we all exist and of life in general. In addition, we can provide evidence of beneficial, harmonious, constructive interactions that can be easily put into practice. We will give you our own experience of relationships based on equality, love, and brotherhood. We will be able to pass on to you a wealth of technical, beneficial, liberating knowledge. We can help you enter a new phase of eliminating suffering and disease. We can help you awaken and use your individual latent powers in a controlled, beneficial way. We can teach you, and at the same time we can make it easier for you to access new kinds of infinite energies that are there in your environment and that you can resonate with the right advanced, scientific methods. We can help and provide guidance so that you can easily and quickly expand your individual field of consciousness, allowing you to actually get to know yourself and awaken in your own being psychic and spiritual forces that are unusual for most people in ignorance. However, we can also state that we will not be able to give you beyond your individual and collective fears. We will not be able to give you to transcend your doubts, the hatred and wickedness that ravages you. Only we can help you understand and immediately put into practice the universal laws that you yourself have previously chosen and understood, in order to transform your bodies and beings in a beneficial way and in all respects. You should know that this help does not mean that we start working for you, because this uninterested help does not presuppose that we make individual and collective efforts for you to build a much better and more harmonious world, which you desire. You can already be sure that we will show the way, but we cannot give you the aspiration, love, and perseverance to discover new, even hitherto unsuspecting realms that you will all have access to if you zealously make the necessary efforts to do so. What do we get in exchange for the non-interested assistance we provide to you? If you clearly and unequivocally declare your intent to appear to you in a planetary referendum, thereby telepathically deciding to establish an interplanetary connection between us, we can announce to you in advance that we will be fully glad that in this part of the universe, existed, fraternal balance appears and is maintained. In our relations, we want to enjoy the fruitful diplomatic exchanges and intense joy that will overwhelm us when we see that you are united, full of goodwill, and good intentions guide more and more of you to accomplish all that you are capable of. You are. Feelings of joy, love, and happiness are constantly highly sought after in the universe because the expression of these feelings is always divine. Pure happiness, as well as the harmony and good we help you discover, will always shine back on us. Now is the time to remember the question we asked. Do you want to see us clearly and definitely? Here's how to answer this question. The majestic, mysterious realities of the soul can be clearly and definitively manifested. What's more, you could be sure that every time you think clearly and firmly about us and manifest those realities, we will immediately perceive your thoughts, or rather telepathically. All you have to do is ask this question and then strive to answer as clearly and decisively as possible, whether you are alone or better yet, in a group that acts in harmony. Beyond all the advice we give you, you can be sure that each of you will be able to act the way he or she wants you to. Therefore, whether you are in the middle of a city or somewhere in the middle of the desert, this fact will not affect the effectiveness of your response. When you ask yourself this question, your answer should be clear and definite, whether yes or no, and we ask you to consider in advance that you will not give a clear and definitive answer immediately after the question. When you have decided to answer this question, we advise you to do so as if you were talking to yourself. Before you respond, it is a good idea to think about this message with as much responsibility as possible, and to take into account all the information we have provided to you in the message. Before answering yes or no, consider this a universal question and realize that the words of the question have a strong meaning in this context, which will then resonate in your beings and initiate an occult resonance process in your inner universe. When you finally decide clearly and firmly what your answer will be, make sure that no doubts bother you. Therefore, you must think clearly and firmly in your souls and minds. It is therefore important that, especially when you formulate this answer, you express a clear and firm intention, which you also link to your answer. In order to be able to harmoniously connect the answer to the question, we advise you to answer it only after you through this message thoroughly at least 3 times in a row at different times. An important advice that it's good to take into account. Please note that you do not have to hurry, do not respond hastily and superficially. We advise you to breathe voluntarily slowly and deeply and allow your free will to dynamize throughout your being. By doing so, many of you will first discover the extraordinary power of free will. In these moments, fully taste the essence of your being and perceive an intense and all-embracing state of joy because you are what you are. Especially when you have to overcome all the difficulties that some of you have gone through that are weakening you. Forget all the problems and tensions that are tormenting you, and strive to be completely separated from them for a few minutes so that you can be yourself in your full radiance. Then, above all, strive to clearly perceive the all-encompassing force that is breaking through you, which manifests itself like a bolt of lightning. The moment you begin to formulate the answer, at the same time make yourself aware that you are actually masters of yourself and that you will remain in that moment. Please note that in order to amplify the effect of the answer, you may have to answer this question again from time to time, especially if your answer is yes, but make sure that the answer is always the same and stays the same, not once with yes and then answer no, then yes again, then no, then yes a third time, then no again, etc. If you do so and answer this question from time to time, you will compensate in some way for the absence of all those who do not know about the existence of this message. You should know that in the case of a positive answer, yes, the deeply beneficial, creative, cleansing and majestic effects of the answer, repeated from time to time, even 2 or 3 times a week, will not be delayed in your being. Moreover, you will experience the addition of the beneficial effects of a positive response repeated from time to time without majestic delay, which you will experience as a gradually intensifying and growing, renewing, and profoundly transformative accumulation. In addition, we recommend that you give this message to your more friends or just a friend only, that you can help any more people with any help. If you have all acted in this way with enthusiasm and devotion to this noble success, you will hasten the coming of the moment that you will see us appear in the heavens of your planet. You should know that our appearance will be possible shortly after the state of the global consensus is established with sufficient force among the people living on this planet. Be aware that a single clearly and unequivocally expressed thought, a single definite and categorical answer, can subvert all evil in the near future on this planet if a sufficient number of people will say yes. We hope this will happen. It is good for you to realize that if you articulate your intentions clearly and firmly within yourself, it will soon cause us to manifest in your physical world, in the world, as many people on your planet as possible will say yes and firmly. If as many people as possible answer yes to this question, the moment we appear before you will be very valuable to both us and you, and indeed, such an encounter will prove profoundly transformative and indispensable for all mankind. In addition to each of you being able to choose the form that is appropriate for you in response to this question, you should know that you are performing any kind of ritual towards us that is unnecessary for us. It is good to know that in the case of a positive, yes, answer, which from time to time you articulate strongly, clearly, decisively, and honestly, the moment it is manifested in your heart of your own will, it will always be immediately felt to us as you articulate it. Even if you answer several times a week and formulate a positive, yes, answer, you will all feel more and more emphatically that we also respond immediately each time. You have to keep in mind that if you answer yes in your intimate ballot box with your definite intentions and secret will, you will be able to determine the future and radically change the fate of the entire planet. What is the effect of collective and non-cellulic lifting bars working in coordination that can transform everything on this planet, and how many fees? In the case of a positive answer, which will prompt us to appear in your physical world shortly after the answer, you must bear in mind that this decision must be made by a sufficient number of people, even if this is entirely for skeptics and pessimists among you. It also seems insignificant. Knowing this, which is why we recommend that you get this message out to as many people as possible in all possible ways, written and audio that you can record on CD or cassette, in all the languages that exist on your planet. In this way, we will be able to encourage as many people as possible to choose an alternative that, if a sufficient number of human beings answer yes, can radically transform the fate of humanity on planet Earth. It is not a problem at all to spread this message in a playful or even funny way, because this way, this message, which is crucial for all of humanity, can be known and understood by as many people as possible, many of whom, in full knowledge of the cause, they may choose to answer yes. If this message reaches you in any form, you need to read it 2 to 3 times carefully and finally decide on a clear and definite answer. It is good to keep in mind that this message, which will never reach you by accident, if you read it carefully, cannot ultimately leave you indifferent. That is why you must understand that the clear and definite answer that you finally give to the question posed in this message will always make you aware of the terrible energy of your free will, which is possible to be used for the first time in your life. Such an experience that enriches you, and at the same time allows you to become aware of the enormous potential that lies within your being, is worth taking a few minutes of your time. What you will experience then will no doubt convince you that you are not mistaken. This will be a step that will indirectly help you make sure that the message we are passing on to you is real. What's more, don't for a moment lose sight of the fact that such an experience, which you all realize directly, can cause you a large-scale internal surprise that, in the case of a positive response, can create such a powerful beneficial echo. Because your agreeing response will mysteriously sum up over time if a sufficient number of human beings answer yes, it will create an unexpected accumulation that can cause unheard of transformations at the planetary level. Since the existence of every human being on this planet is very valuable, it is important that you all answer this question firmly, convinced that in this way you can contribute to the large-scale, as yet unsuspecting transformation that may appear on your planet at the right moment. You also need to realize that a positive response, which you articulate clearly and emphatically, will ultimately benefit all of humanity on this planet, including those who knew nothing about the existence of this message and therefore could not choose. In the case of a clear and definite consent, you also discover the mysterious and surprisingly powerful presence of your free will in your being. However, it is extremely important to note that regardless of your answers to this question, whether yes or no, the fact that this message has fallen into your hands cannot leave you cold. When you are about to give a clear, definite answer, it is important to forget about the false prophets and all the more or less distorted or phantasmagoric opinions you have heard about us over time. Assume that this message may still be one of the most important and direct you have ever received in the matter of bringing all of humanity into contact with an advanced extraterrestrial civilization. You must immediately understand that deciding on your own, whether as an individual or as a cohesive group, in such a matter, which is so important to all of humanity, is both your birthright and your responsibility. Anyone who reads this message must understand that in a given situation, neither the indifference nor the passivity you can manifest will lead to anything other than a lack of freedom. The manifestation of the mysterious power that any of you can manifest for the benefit of all mankind through his free will is capable of creating unintended effects, both in your beings and on the planet on which you all have lived. At the same time, be aware that your indecision is always ineffective, because even when you appear indecisive, you are, in a paradoxical way, declaring that you do not intend to promote anything that is conducive to the development of goodwill in beings, but outside beings, on the planet where they lived. If you choose to remain captive and fanatically prisoners of your faith, which we can understand, you could answer with a clear and definite no. However, we ask you not to say a formal and superficial yes that stems from a banal curiosity in the event that you are not really able to make a clear, firm, and truly responsible choice. We ask you to understand first of all that we who intend to help you, if you definitely want it, not only want to appear like in a play, but we really exist in a certain way in an objective reality where we live our lives. Never lose sight of the fact that in the world where we all live, we really exist, as you have existed in a world of provisions. Don't for a moment fall prey to pessimism, anticipating that the number of people who will say yes clearly and firmly can be extremely small. Keep in mind that your history recognizes many scenes in which a relatively narrow group of men and women acted with determination, solidarity, vigor, and heroism, and thus miraculously, successfully changed the course of events, despite their small numbers. We are sure that such examples are now known to all of us. When indifference, boredom, and helplessness try to paralyze your benevolent, creative initiatives, think with a clear head and the right judgment of how a relatively small group of malicious people, an elite operating from the shadows, were still able to take over temporarily dominate the planet Terra, thereby influencing the future of a very large number of people in the very wrong direction. It is equally possible that only 200 to 300 determined people, acting in unison, in unity, and in solidarity each time, can still tip over the tragic collective fate of this planet. Such a strong, united, heroic, and fraternal group, moreover, driven by determined and noble ideals, can at the same time contribute, through the tremendous help we provide, to the birth of a new humanity that will participate in the great brotherhood of galactic civilizations. Your union into a harmonious organic whole can create a huge supernatural force that, through its nature, can transform the tragic situation in which your planet is currently located in a short time. If a group of people as well as 200 to 300 people will act in harmony every time, guided by clear and strong intentions based on noble ideals every time, they will be able to manifest surprising miracles on your planet. As soon as such a group begins to act vigorously, you may discover that rapid and surprising transformations are possible, which the vast majority of people on Earth consider impossible for the time being. You will easily find that through your unity created to accomplish charitable goals, a tremendous force will emerge through you, and thus you will be able to succeed even the most difficult plans, which seem impossible to the apathetic and the grinding of doubt. Unite to accomplish goals based on outstanding ideals, and group such actions into groups of 3, 5, 10, 100, or even 1,000 people, and always dare to act in the service of the good, guided by a clear, determined, and strong intention. When you have acted in such smaller or larger groups of unity and solidarity, you can be sure, even before your actions begin, that if your actions are manifested in full harmony, they will ultimately be crowned with success. The deeper and more complete your unification, both in intent and in thought, feeling, and action with other people who are inspired by the same aspirations, is enough to create an astonishing, tremendous realizing force. Remember that one of your thinkers said, "Give me a solid focus and I promise that you will eliminate the whole land." Another thinker said, "A real thought power for a strong effort is that for a particular moment begins to spread and multiply, proliferate. At a given moment colossal force turns this occult Soxora-Sosei process follow, and finally huge energy of crowds moves you, the appropriate long-term changes causing the earth." Especially those who are able to comprehend what we have revealed to you here can understand that in these lines we who want to be your brothers and sisters have provided you with a big secret which, if put into practice regularly and persistently, will completely transform human destiny in a short time. It can result in a change in the fate of your planet. Everyone who reads this information should understand that spreading this message and applying the advice it contains will and will remain, beyond appearances, the solid point that should always be used at the right moment, while we, your brethren, who exist in a certain plane of the reality of the universe, we will be and remain at all times the long arm of the lifting bar, extending several lights, by which you become the creators of the elevation of the planet Earth to a new level full of benevolence in your world. Here. What are the consequences of how many people make clearly and definitely agreed decisions? For most of you, the first direct consequence of a favorable collective decision, expressed by a sufficient number of human beings in a definite and unambiguous yes, will be that many spacecraft, UFOs, materialize in your skies, and at the same time some of these spacecraft, UFOs, will land on Earth. For some people, the direct effect of contacting us will be to quickly and permanently abandon many dogmatic beliefs and misconceptions. Even a simple demonstrative relationship that can happen simultaneously in different parts of the Earth will have a huge impact on your future. Within a short time, many misconceptions disappear or change forever. The organization of your societies will be shaken as deeply as ever before, in almost every area of life. The confidence and strength that will awaken will become individual because many of you will be able to see for the first time in your life with your own eyes that we truly live and exist. Your later relationship with us will help you transform your values. In our view, the most important fact that will happen will be that humanity will finally be able to form a united brotherhood immediately as it faces the unknown we have represented. At the same time, many dangers will be diverted from your abode by the fact that our relationship with you will indirectly force unwanted beings, that is, those we call third party, to finally show up and disappear. On this occasion, you can learn that one is your name and feed on the same root, that is, humanity. Soon after, many pacifist, benevolent, and respectful exchanges and collaborations will be possible, if that is your will. In the current situation on Earth, those who are hungry are unable to smile, those who are tortured or paralyzed by doubts, just as those who are afraid, are unable to open up to the help we provide. We look with deep sympathy on human beings who suffer from many parts of the Earth, both in body and soul, despite the fact that in fact every human being in their own universe has an invaluable indestructible light by which many miracles can be realized in other people as well as on your planet. This hidden and eternal light can be a deeply transforming, happy, sophisticated and uplifting future for many people on Earth. Then your relationships and interactions with us can evolve gradually. We can already tell you that there will be several stages in your cooperation with us that will span several years or decades. The first will be the demonstration appearance of our spaceships, which a lot of people can see at the same time. In the second stage, we physically appear and materialize in the company of certain human beings we have previously chosen, in order to establish fertile relationships between us. The third stage assumes free cooperation with you to help you take certain important steps, partly in the field of technical development, but especially in your spiritual transformation and maturation. In the fourth stage, working closely with us, you will discover a huge, currently unsuspecting part of your galaxy. You have to take into account that you will have new choices every time you work together. Each time you will be the ones to make choices and decisions, and as you grow in your proper understanding, you will be able to take new steps with us if, obviously, it will be necessary for your spiritual and external well-being. You can do all these inner spiritual transformations under our guidance, but each time each of you, through yourself, will have to make the necessary efforts for you to put into practice these modes that we will discover. They could already be sure that no intervention would be unilaterally decided during our cooperation. What's more, you need to know that we will be leaving shortly after your collective desires and intentions are manifested in that direction. It will take several months, or even a few years, in close connection with the speed at which this message is spreading in the world, before our great appearance. However, they could be sure that our appearance would take place shortly after the decision of the majority of those who had used their choice in a creative way and chose a clear, definite yes answer to the question posed in this message. Your great appearance will only occur on your planet if this message we have spread will resonate strong enough in all of you. But that doesn't mean it's imperative that all the people on your planet make that decision. It is worth understanding that the fundamental difference between your prayers to God and other superior entities of a predominantly divine nature, and the clear and definite decisions you make when you say a definite yes is very simple and obvious. We are already at this moment we are perfectly prepared technically to materialize in your world. Why is a certain historical dilemma now for some? We know that alien is most often seen as an enemy as long as it remains hidden, unknown. In the first stage, the common, fiercely experienced emotion will strengthen in a way the relationships that exist between you globally by initiating certain resonance processes. It is possible that some of you are asking the following question: how would we know that the coming of these extraterrestrial beings is the result of our collective choice? The answer is doubtful and very simple. First of all, they could have been sure that otherwise we could have appeared in the plane of your existence and had been manifested in secret for a long time. As it is a fact that we are not yet present on your plane of existence, this is only because you have not decided to state this explicitly. Some may believe that we can only convince you that you will make your own decision to justify our coming, even if it would not be necessary at all for that to happen. If you are nurturing such thoughts, it is worth asking yourself the following question: what would be in our interest to openly offer you, for the benefit of many of you, something you do not yet have access to? Others may ask, how can we be sure that a relationship like this is not really a sophisticated maneuver of the third party to make us even more obedient and completely vulnerable? The answer to such a question is very simple: this cannot be the case because it is always much easier to fight with someone we identify and see than with someone we don't, i.e., someone we don't identify and don't see, we can't fight or defend against. Isn't the terrorism that grinds you a clear example of this? Beyond the possible doubts and suspicions that grind you, you can be sure that no matter what happens, you will always be the only judge in your soul and consciousness. In our case, you could be sure that whatever your decisions are, they will always be and will be respected to the utmost. In the absence of announcements from human representatives who sometimes tend to deceive you, you know nothing about us or those who are already manipulating you in the present without your consent. In this particular situation in which you are, respecting the principle of precaution, which would mean not even trying to find out what we are, is no longer convincing. Whether you understand it or not, you are already in the box of Pandora created by the third party around you. No matter what your decision may be, you must first step out of Pandora's box. Faced with such a dilemma, in which one state of ignorance struggles against another state of ignorance, you have to show a lot of well-being and ask your voice and intuition. In conclusion, you have to decide, do you want to discover us with your own eyes, or do you just want to blindly believe what your scientists and opinion formers, bought by the occult forces of evil, are saying? This is our real question. After thousands of years, at some point, this question becomes inevitable: you have to choose between two strangers. And now let's see why it's helpful to spread such a text among you to reach as many people as possible in a short amount of time. It is really worth translating and disseminating this text to reach as many people as possible. If this action is crowned with success and we appear to everyone, this success will also have a beneficial and irreversible impact on your future and have a historical impact for millennia. You have to take into account that if this referendum does not achieve its goal, such a failure will at the same time postpone another choice for many years, by at least a generation, if it is worth that time. Failure to communicate the existence of this message to as many people as possible means that you risk having achieved the opposite result. If you remain uninterested or skeptical, you are giving up the opportunity to creatively express your free will, which, in the case of a favorable planetary current, could transform it into a favorable direction, similar to a thought. Please understand that in this referendum, which you have to carry out telepathically, you are, in fact, talking about your future as well as the future of all humanity. If this referendum is successfully concluded and we are to appear, this success will also be a spiritual leap for humanity and will significantly accelerate your development. However, it is possible that this message will not receive your collective consent for the time being. One possible reason for this may be that our message does not reach a large enough number on Earth. In this case, skeptics will argue that, in fact, this message had no value, being nothing more than a dead letter. Yet, we let you know that no benevolent individual aspiration, is left without some inner echo in the being of the one who manifested it, because always, without exception, the universe responds at the right moment, just like a huge resonance box, and by this all men are equally paid for the benevolent thoughts and intentions they have manifested. You can be sure from the outset that we will respond to some of you to some extent when you think of us creatively, and as you will see later, we will give you inspiration and help. As many of you will be convinced, you will receive certain unexpected responses and inspirations to all your sincere and enthusiastic efforts to establish a telepathic, spiritual relationship with us, which will make you understand that benevolent aspirations, are definitely superior to tea and indulgence in indifference. If our message only manages to gain your collective consent a little later, we assure you that we have the patience and look forward to the moment when you will deserve to all witness our great appearance. The moment when our message will successfully receive your sufficient collective consent will depend entirely on those of you who will allow the day of our great appearance to come in the days and months to come. Imagine now, optimistically and hopefully, what will happen if the day of our great appearance is already next month. Thousands of our spaceships will then appear in the sky of your planet in the same hour. You should understand that such an appearance of ours will act as a real cultural shock that will be unique in the current history of mankind. From that day on, there will no longer be a need to spread this message, but both skeptics and indifferent will feel a wave of remorse for having reservations about spreading this message or rejecting a clear and definite answer to the question asked. On that special day, the Earthlings will discover us irreversibly. Since our message is urgent to you, please read this referendum carefully, and we urge you not to hurry, but to think carefully about the answer intended for us, and then decide. How will everyone be convinced that the media will never have an interest in ever publishing this message of ours because they are run from the background by those who have evil intentions? Note that it is only you, extraordinary, responsible, and loving people who are anonymous, who have the task of conveying this important message to as many people in your country as possible. Deliver this message to as many people in your environment as possible without delay and encourage them to make each choice and not remain indifferent. By devoting ourselves to presenting this message to as many people as possible, you have begun to become shapers of the superior destiny of your planet. In conclusion, we ask you to answer the following question with care. Do you want to clearly and definitely to appear? We let you know that you are free to copy and distribute, or even publish, this message in separate booklets, wherever and whenever you want, but please do not change or omit parts of it.